Hello everyone, I am David.
And I am Jakub.
Welcome to our channel New Speech. In this video we'll look at some extracts from Joe Biden's speech at the American Institute of Stuttering.
Biden makes some important points about the pain of stammering, about bravery, and about focusing on capabilities.
Let's look at the first extracts from his speech.
In full disclosure, he asked me if I'd come and speak at one of the association dinners, and I made up an excuse that I couldn't do it. The truth of the matter was I was afraid to do it. Not that I'd be unable to speak, but I was afraid that if people knew I stuttered, they would thought something was wrong with me. Because for the longest time in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, there was a lot of debate about whether or not those of us who stuttered suffered from some other problem that caused us to stutter. And like Bruce said, I too thought I was handicapped. I remember to this day how stuttering felt, how dehumanizing, how embarrassing, how much it put into question, in my own mind as well, my capabilities. Thank God I had a mother and a father and a family like Aaron's family and his son has. I had my own in-house American Institute for Stuttering. It was the Biden family. And I look back on it, and I mean this sincerely. I don't know Bruce and many others of you who've overcome stuttering, but it taught me things I probably shouldn't have learned. I learned how to fight. I'm not being facetious. I was a pretty good athlete, and I learned how to fight, which is not an admirable thing. But I also learned, that it was more important for any of the young people in this audience to focus on the things that were the capabilities I really did have, not focus on what was viewed as a liability that I stuttered. And my mother, every time I'd go out of the house, my mother would say, "Joey, look at me." She'd make me look her in the eye. "Look at me. Look at me. Remember, you're the smartest boy in that class. Remember, Joey. Remember, nobody's better than you, Joey. Remember, Joey, you're a really good athlete. Remember, Joey, what a good person you are. Look at me, Joey, look at me." Not a joke. Not a joke. She made me focus on things about me that I thought I really could develop. And that my stuttering, in a sense, hid those things from other people.
Biden says, "She made me focus on the things about me that I thought I really could develop." How does this relate to the new speech?
Stammering is not a focus on new speech. We don't try to accept stammering or to see how it makes us better. Instead, we focus on something which we can develop, that is, learning a new style of speech from scratch.
Biden also says, "My stuttering, in a sense, hid those things from other people." What do you think about this?
Well, you can have the most amazing thoughts or ideas, but if you cannot say them out loud, it is very difficult for other people to appreciate them.
Now let's look at the second extract.
It taught me to anticipate, and every one of you, what the person you were about to approach, what was on their mind. I remember I was a paper boy and I used to have to collect for the Wilmington newspaper. And my next door neighbor, a fella who worked up in Philadelphia, a lawyer named Mr. Schultze, his wife had passed away. He loved the Phillies and the Philadelphia Eagles. And every time I'd go on Friday to collect, or Saturday to collect for the paper, I'd practice as I walked up the short walk exactly what I was going to say to Mr. Schultze before he answered the door. And I tried like hell to anticipate what was going to be on his mind. And it was always a good bet in baseball season. It would be something about the Phillies. And I would walk up and say, Mr. Schultze, how are you? How about those Phillies? Well, it's not a joke, those of you who are serious bad stutterers. It gives you insight. It makes you think. It makes you focus on what the other person is made of. It makes you focus on what you think may be on their mind. And it's an incredible asset in my business. And my guess is in most of your endeavors. It develops an instinct. To all of you young people and parents who are here tonight, if I could share one piece of advice with you, it would be this. First, your stutter does not define who you are. Your stutter is not about who you are. It has nothing to do with who you are at your core. It has nothing to do with your intellectual competence. It has nothing to do with your decency, your character. Everything that matters, it has nothing to do with.
Biden makes an important point about anticipating and practicing what to say. What do you think about this?
When you have speech blocks and you know that you will face a difficult situation, you might anticipate what you or what anyone else might say. You prepare yourself to avoid difficult words and to find other words which you can say more easily. Perhaps you also get better at listening to what others have to say. However, often, no matter how well you prepare, when you have a speech block, there isn't a lot you can do about it.
Biden says your stutter does not define who you are. Do you think that's true?
I think it defines how other people see you. And although it shouldn't define who you are, it can have a massive impact on your life.
Let's look at the last extract.
If I was standing up here talking about having a cleft palate and how I had that operated on, or I had a withered arm, or I was partially paralyzed, no one would make fun of it at all. But think about it. Stuttering is the only thing that good people think it's still okay to laugh about. And those of you who are stutterers, remember how it feels. Remember how it feels. It drags you down in that empty hole in your chest. That feeling of panic you get and then anger. That's why I asked Bruce, they saw Colin Firth, he saw the King's speech. King's speech did more to help us stutterers than anything else because it made people who don't stutter understand the pain, the depth of the pain. So when you walk up to that pretty girl and you say, will you go to the prom with me? It takes more goddamn darn courage to do that than it does about anything any of you done in your whole life. It takes courage. That's why you kids out there who stutter. My mom used to have an expression. She'd say, Bravery lives in every heart, and it will be summoned. It will be summoned.
Biden reminds us how it feels when someone laughs at us. Do you have any memories?
Well, I have quite a lot of memories. I think it's difficult enough not to be able to say what you want to and not to be understood, even when the person listening is kind and patient. But when someone directly laughs at you, when you are trying your best, it's a really horrible feeling. And it's even worse when someone copies your stammering on purpose.
Do people who stammer have a lot of courage?
To speak to someone you haven't met, or to ask a question, or to say something unusual, requires a lot more courage than other people think. In new speech training, we put ourselves in challenging situations by asking questions, by speaking to strangers, and by speaking in front of many people. In this way, our speech becomes much more confident and we gain a lot of control.
Thank you for watching this video.
And thank you for listening.
And see you next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.